when I say maybe in a previous time period in this declining Kalpa, I'm talking a very long time ago, when humans lived a lot longer and had a lot more virtue, a lot more wisdom, a lot more compassion. So that's what I'm referring to when I say that. Or, so anyway, so having said all of that, but we aren't there. We aren't at that point in the declining Kalpa. We're in Mappo. We're in the beginning of the end of the declining Kalpa, the declining slope. I should probably call it the declining slope of our Kalpa, because one way of framing the Kalpa in which we live is you have the declining slope and then the ascending slope. So we're in the declining slope, and we're in the first Antara, so it's called an Antara Kalpa. And we're in the declining slope of the first one, and then the second half is an ascending slope upward, as far as virtue and wisdom and longevity of life and quality of life and all that, as karma improves again amongst human people, beings that are born as humans. And that just kind of builds, and then eventually Maitreya comes in a very distant future. So you kind of have to know that, you kind of have to know the broader context of where we are when we say we're in Mappo. We're kind of just close to the bottom of the V. If we put it that way, if you make it like a V or a wave, we've been on the declining Kalpa for a very, very, very long time. And we're kind of almost at the bottom of the bell, the curve at the bottom of that, not the bell, but the curve at the bottom of that. We're just almost at we're about 9,000 plus years off from the bottom of that curve before it starts to slowly go upward and turn up. So that's Mappo. And in Mappo, like I said, talking about the alarmism and there's always this alarmism and people trying to prepare for whatever it is, the economic aspect of the age we live in, or the environmental collapse of the age we live in, or the whatever it is, always trying to prepare for it. And it's all, I get it. I've been there. I've been in that mindset. Been there in one way or another, probably off and on through my whole lifetime. As I've talked about before, I was born into a kind of end times kind of religion. So that mindset, I get that mindset, and it's actually, I'm grateful for that now, because it's prepared me for Mappo. It's one of the many, many things, Upaya of Amida, that has prepared me for these times. I talked about in another video, the previous video, in fact, in this series. So I get it. I get that. But what are you preparing for? Like, okay, the current situation. Here's an example. This is what I'm talking about. Here in Mappo, you hear in the alternative media a lot of things. One of which is, you got to get your satellite phone. You got to get that satellite phone, because, the cell towers are going to be out and the landlines are going to be down, and there's going to be an EMP and blah, blah, blah. And all that stuff is going to be true. At some point, that stuff's going to happen. I'm not denying that. But it's the unwiseness of beings in Mappo to think, and they've been talking about this now for years. Get that satellite phone. You don't want to just have your mobile phone. You don't want to have just landlines. If you want to communicate with your loved ones, you got to get that. You got to get that satellite phone. And they're all talking about it. And been talking about that for years, really, and selling them, selling to people with that mindset. So making a lot of money on people with this and other products, making a lot of money on people's alarmism. Lots of money, running whole networks with that. You're running whole media networks with just selling those kind of products to that alarmist people with that alarmist mindset, and then perpetuating that. So it's a good, they get a good deal out of it, these people selling them. And one of the things they sell is you got to have that, you got to get that satellite phone. Now, you don't think and most of the people with the mindset who would buy a satellite phone or try to sell you a satellite phone are thinking, there's going to be, the governments are going to control everything, or the governments, corporations, what have you, cabals, or, whatever it is, whatever is going to be running things, the cartels, where depending on where you are, whoever's going to be running things and controlling things, they're going to be able to trace they can trace your cell phone. So get yourself, then they sell you a what's that called? A Faraday wallet to put your cell phone in, so they, your mobile in, so they can't trace you. It's just, and it's like, if you think that, right, that they are going to be tracking everything, that everything that the power, the power elite that they go on about, the power elite that is gonna try to control everything, and that it's true. They are trying to do that. They just are. I mean, they're completely insane and completely delusional and megalomaniacal, but they do believe that they can do it, and they're going to try, and they probably are going to have quite a lot of control. They already do, but like the mindset of so you don't think they're going to be able to do that with satellite phones. They're going to do it with absolutely everything else. They're going to be able to track you in every other way. But if you have that satellite phone, you're good. That's going to save you. They're not going to be able to track you on that, and you're going to you're going to sneak right past them with that with that satellite phone. You and your family just going to sneak past you and your family, and all of that. And it's just one example. Like it's just like so you think that's going to save you. It's just the mindset of people. There's just no wisdom at all, no acceptance of the time, of the age we live in, or the times. And even if they are, this is another thing, there's a lot of people on religious basis that say we're living in the end times, and there's different religions that believe that that's what's happening now, but it's like they don't really accept what that means. Do you know what I mean? They don't really. They just think they can just that somehow their mindset of their craving for all these things that they're trying to protect, they somehow think that's okay. It's just that's a they don't really even look at that, and that they're just gonna, like, oh, we got to survive until it all collapses and then rebuild. But no one thinks no one thinks, really? Like, we're gonna rebuild this like, and they're thinking it's gonna happen like in their lifetime, that they're gonna see that somehow. They just don't think it through. Like, they build their, this is why I chose this spot. It's got this fence along here. There's this, I don't know if you can see it clear, but you're going to build your redoubts. You're going to build your compounds, have your community that's self-sufficient. You don't think that somebody's going to come for you. You don't think, and prepare. You're going to prepare, it's just, you're staving off the inevitable. Like, someone is going to come and you're going to take it all, and probably you're going to die like when they do. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, I'm not making any threats by saying this. This is all just speculation on my part. All of this stuff. I'm not making any threats. I don't want this to happen to people. I'm just sheer speculation on my part for just educational purposes. I'm not suggesting to anybody anything. You know, but I'm just giving kind of a hypothetical example to say, you know, it's just the Mappo mindset. People just don't think it through. They don't think. And it's just so short-sighted and unwise, and they don't see the selfishness of any of that alarmist prepper mentality. And I don't mean I'm not just talking about the preppers that have their go bags, I mean, even people before that weren't talking like that now are talking that way, but I'm not talking about just the hardcore preppers, subculture of preppers. I'm talking about anybody that's talking about we got to prepare for the future in some way. Okay, make sure you invest in gold and silver. That's gonna save you. Yeah, the whole society is in their mind is going to become increasingly authoritarian, and then it's going to be collapsing in failed states, and and it's all going to be one ghetto man, as as Russ Cole says on True Detective. It's all one ghetto man. Anyway, but they think somehow, okay, well, you have that satellite phone and you got your gold and you got your silver. Now we're good. Somehow that's gonna save me. That's gonna, it's so ridiculous. It's just a perfect example of the mentality of Mappo, the ignorant mentality, the total lack of wisdom, the total lack of virtue, of self-awareness, of ability to reflect on anything. It's just ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And this is, I'm not just going on about the right wingers. This is the whole all the extremes of politics now do a similar thing. They have their own, there's those that think, okay, well, if we just, get control of things and have a social credit score, and we'll just, have controls on everything, and just have a living wage for everybody, and just pay for everyone's schooling, pay for everyone's everything, and just have people believe in a certain ideology, and get rid of all the people in some way that don't have that ideology, that somehow that's going to solve it all, and then we'll be secure and we'll be safe. Even though, how many times over and over and over and over again has that pattern been repeated? And that kind of mentality always gets taken advantage of by the elites anyway. They take all of that kind of ideology and they manipulate it. And they use it for their own means. It doesn't matter whether it's left, right, or in between, especially the extremes. And they love division. Like, that's the other thing. Division, like how divided people are, how polarized people are. Like, people just don't think it through that's the most easy thing to manipulate about people, is when they get to the extremes, and that polarization, and the one side is dehumanizing the other, and they don't see how that's the easiest way to control you and manipulate you. Doesn't matter what side of the political, or what part of the political spectrum, or however you want to look at that political compass, or political spectrum, or political globe, as it were, you are on. Once they use that division, that's used to control people by all sides. Whoever wants the power, perfect. Whoever wants the power, whoever wants to consolidate power, they will use your division. They will use and people just don't see that. They just don't see it. And yeah, some do, but not most people don't. They just think, and they really think their political thing is going to save them. They really think that they're if we just we can just turn it around, you know, or we just enforce the law. They just don't get it. It's beyond all of that. It's beyond it. It's beyond a solution. It's just hoping against hope. That's the other aspect of Mappo that I've been musing on and thinking about and reflecting on is this like the hope against hope mentality. It's like the phases of grief. People are just in denial that our current of the age we're in and the current civilization as we know it is coming to an end completely. And some know that, but they still think somehow they're going to preserve what they think is the right civilization. They still think, well, we're going to somehow rise from the ashes and we're going to build this society or civilization, in our way. And they just think they're going to control that. And this is people, this is just everyday people. And this is also the people that have, loads of money and power and all of that. And they think, yeah, we're going to just, it's at all levels. It's at all levels. All levels of people do this. And I've been there. I've done this. I've been in that mindset, before Amita's light has really kind of illumined the state of the world kind of for me to what Mappo is about and how that works. And I would get caught up in that. I would get caught up in that in one way or another. But now I don't. I just see, it's more an acceptance now for me. It's more of a, and I probably went through those phases of grief with it, with the dying of civilization, with the impermanence. And that's the other thing. People just don't get impermanence, like even less so now in Mappo. They just don't get, they just, like the things that they're thinking they're going to be able to hang on to and protect. It's wild. It's really wild. And so that's a big part of this is the level of denial in their hoping against hope. It's like, those, like I said, the stages of grief only in Mappo, only for civilization and their own families and their own communities and their own belief systems. They just think, somehow, I can't remember exactly, but, there's the total, anger, at first. And then there's, because in anger and we got to fight it. And they think if we can overcome it, we can win this battle, and that kind of went through. There was a phase of that the last several years, but then people the reality started, setting in as to just about how bad things are on the planet now, how bad they are in just every single freaking way. So then they go to, okay, well, yeah, civilization as we know it's coming to an end, so we do this and this, and then there's still denial that somehow we can have a soft landing, and let's maybe it won't completely end, maybe it'll just be transformed, maybe it's just a transformation we're going through, and and maybe we can have a soft landing with it all, and politically and socially and civilization wise, and and maybe so then the bargaining or first denial. The first is denial, and then there's the bargaining. Well, maybe if we do this, do that, or if they do this, if we tell them, like, look, if you just do this, the other side, if we just say, look, we'll let bygones be bygones. If you just stop what you're doing, and we go back to whatever, there's anyway, there's different phases of it, and so it's like there's this bargaining kind of thing, but nobody seems to be getting to full acceptance. There's kind of acceptance that, yeah, civilization's going to collapse, yeah, economy's going to collapse, yeah, we're going to be in war, and there's going to be a food crisis, famine, food crisis, and there's going to be pandemics, and there's going to be, and in the next couple of years, millions, between, the next couple of years and the next several years, millions upon millions of people are going to be dying. But, somehow we're going to, we're going to survive, and somehow we're going to have like a renaissance, of true human values and cultures. Yeah. Give me a break. Yeah. That's happening. Or somehow we're going to survive, and we're going to get rid of those people that think that way, that they're going to have, on the right. We'll get rid of the people on the right, and and they'll all die off, and then we'll have a utopia. Then out of that will arise, in a utopia of, where everyone's looked after, and all of that, blah blah blah. Yeah, okay, give me a break. Just give me a break. Both sides, give me a freaking break. You know what I mean? And there's no, and then when you have a moderate voice, and there are many of us, like when I'm, my politics is very, very, moderate. And it's become that way as the longer I've been a Buddhist. The more moderate and more toward the center it's become. There's some things I lean right with, there's some things I lean left with, but it's generally kind of from the center, kind of, the middle way, if you will. Because just as a Buddhist, you can't, once you as a Buddhist, you encounter the light of Amida, you can't really maintain all those ideologies anymore, all that political nonsense anymore. You come to a place of pragmatic, first you come to a place of, you look at yourself and you see how rubbish you are and how unwise and how uncompassionate, how greedy, how hangry, how much of the three poisons you have in your own life, and that maybe you shouldn't be stomping around self-righteously telling others what to do, or maybe you shouldn't be, maybe you don't have enough wisdom to know what's best for everyone on the planet, and you kind of get to that point as a Buddhist. If you don't, then you're not, you're either doing something wrong on the self-power path, or Amida hasn't illumined your way yet to see that. But so that's the first thing. So that kind of some humility comes in, because in my case, that's Amida did that with me, showing the light on all that BS I had in my head, and ignorance, and the three poisons in my life, and then also that's Amida's wisdom. And then there's the compassion, we should try to do what we can do for, justice and to help people, and to be responsible for the environment and all of those kinds of things. But on the same token, because the light, the wisdom and light of Amida is illumining our way, we can see that there's, because we're just unwise, we're living in Mappo, there's not a hell of a lot we're going to do about it. Speaking of environmental damage and destruction. Anyway, so yeah, there's not much we can do. All we can do is the best we can do, and you kind of get to that point. So it kind of becomes a pragmatic, practical approach to social welfare, to social, ethics, to political, ideas and beliefs. Becomes much more kind of pragmatic, and you kind of settle down, calm down, and just, and so that's, and you get to a place of acceptance with it. You get to a place of, of acceptance, and that's why, it's because of my being a Buddhist that's where I am politically, is kind of in the center, and that's, That's very unpopular. Being a moderate now is very unpopular. From both political extremes are not happy with anybody who's a moderate. You know, you're not this enough, or you're not that enough, or they can't trust you, or whatever. So it's just, you know, you can't win for losing, really. And that's Mappo. That's Mappo. That's Mappo. We're all spiritual idiots trying to, you know, you know, trying to run towns and cities and countries and regions and you know, it's just, and trying to manage it all, you know. So anyways, I think I probably have mused on that enough, my Mappo musings. But it's just, you know, what I'm trying to say is, you know, and what people do in that this mentality is somehow, you know, there's always that thing they grasp. It's that grasping at straws, grasping at that thing to, you know, or like shifting where they are, you know. Oh yeah, that's another thing, you know, let's escape to New Zealand or Iceland or wherever, you know, or you know, you hear about these elites, you know, building their redoubts in different places. Like, where you gonna go? It's all Mappo, man. It's all Saha world. You're just switching seats on the Titanic till somebody's coming for it. Somebody's coming for it. Somebody's coming for you. Somebody's coming for it. And there's you know, you can't stop it. It's rolling. It's Mappo, man. It's Mappo. So anyway, I am just grateful that if I didn't have Jodo Shinshu Buddhism, if I didn't have Buddhism, Jodo Shinshu Buddhism, and Amida's light, I don't know what I'd be doing now. I mean, I don't know what it would be. It would not be pretty, I can say that. So I'm just really grateful that in these interesting, quote unquote, interesting times, insane times, really unhealthy times, aggressive times, perilous times, alarming times of Mappo, that I have the way. I have the way. I have the Buddhist way. I have I have the Amida, you know, the Amida Buddha truth, the Jodo, the essential teachings of the Pure Land way, to entrust to. You know, I have the teaching, practice, and realization of the essential teachings of the Pure Land way to entrust to, and Amida to entrust to, and Amida's light, so that I can accept these things. Yeah, I mean, it's crazy to put a positive, you know, I'm not really putting a positive spin on Mappo or a positive spin on what's happening in the world, because it's really horrible. It's horrible. And it's going to be it literally is going to be hell on earth in coming centuries. And it's all starting now. You can see all the patterns. Like, this is something I can't wait to get to in my Lotus Pod Buddhist Cosmology series. You can see what it talks about in Buddhist cosmology, the seeds of it happening now. You can literally see it. So anyway, so that's about it. I think this reflection and Mappo musings have gone on as long as they had to. So Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Butsu, Nama, 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 Nama. All right, till next time.